and another 72 hours in the bag. That's right. Another 72 hours we've been fasting, and you get to see right here, right now, what I eat to end my fast for this week. I am so excited that you are here. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. If you're new to me, that's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, go to the next level. We're creating the life we've always wanted, and we are living limitless lives. That's right. If you're new to me, go ahead and put new in the comments, because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music and let you know that I am so excited that you're here. If you do have questions as we go throughout the show, go ahead and drop those in the comments, because I want to get to those. Make sure you put a Q in front of them so I know that that is a question that we need to get to. Whatever platform you're joining us from, welcome, welcome, welcome. Whatever area of the country, around the world that you're joining us from, we are excited that you're here. A special shout out to our Accelerator members who are hanging out with us. Thank you for coming through and being with us. If you are here because you heard our product, you heard our talk, you heard one of our videos, you saw one of our episodes, at your doctor's office, at your local community center, at your church even, welcome, and we're thankful that you are here. I want to give a special shout out to our folks from Atlanta Berean in Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you for walking through the health series with us. We're glad that you are here, glad that you are getting benefit, and glad that you are continuing to walk strong as you improve your health. Special shout out to our folks from Nashville, from Riverside Chapel there in Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you for also being a part of our community. And then a special shout out to our folks from Magazine Street Temple in Louisville, Kentucky. Thank you for coming through and being with us. Now, a lot of stuff that we've got going on. I've got my monitors, of course, that we'll take a look at here in just a minute. I've got my Dexcom Clarity Report, which is down below, and my monitor went out, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to change that right here on the show. You get to see how that's done if you've not seen that before. We're going to walk through that. And then, of course, you get to see what I'm going to eat for the first time in 72 hours as we get into or we conclude this fast. If you've not done so, if you've not done that yet, you want to make sure that you get over and watch the episode that we did so that you can see what I ate as my last meal coming into the fast, and then we'll take a look at the blood sugars. You'll be able to correlate those blood sugars and see what happened after I ate that meal, okay? So let's go ahead and let's do this. I do want to give a quick promo for our Move campaign that we launched just this week. Let's go ahead and look at that right now, and then we'll be back. Welcome to Move, metabolic optimization via exercise. This isn't just about workouts. It's about moving your body, moving your habits, and moving your life forward. Each episode builds consistency, strength, and resilience step by step. I'm Dr. Dwain Woode, and together we're writing the story of health, transformation, and limitless living. This is Move. Let's get started. All right. So very excited about that. That is our new series that we started just this week. So we are on day 5 of that series. So make sure that you get there and get a part of it. It is designed to help us as we move through the Limitless Living Health Action Plan. It is the movement non-negotiable. You know, we talked about the what's your physical and your movement non-negotiable, what's your food non-negotiable, and what's your mindset non-negotiable, and that gives that fills the space of the movement. Let's go ahead and do this because I want to have this be going as we're talking. It takes about 30 minutes for this to get warmed up, and so let me come over here and let's take a look. So here is my Dexcom, and as you see there, the Dexcom went out, and it says Start New Sensor. So let's go ahead and let's look at that right now so that we can get that going. So let me come over to this view over here. So this is my Dexcom. Comes in a box like that. It's the G7. Let me move it over here. get these guys off of the screen. All right, so you get to see, we're going to open the box right now and get this one out of here. And it basically looks like a huge screw. All right, let's get that. All right, so this is what it looks like. Comes in a little package like that. And you basically screw it open. And there you have, let's see, let's do it this way. Probably can't see that very well, but right in there is where the sensor is. And for me, I have a couple of sensors on. I have one on this arm. And let's see if I can do this a little differently. Okay, well, yeah. So I've got one on this arm, and then I've got another one over on this arm. So this one is this one, let's make sure I've got the right one. This one right here is a Libre 3 Plus, and this is a Dexcom G7, and this is the one that went out. So let me go ahead and take that off. Now, I've done this before because I wear two, and I've just grabbed the one I thought it was, and it turned out to be the opposite one, but that's okay. So we got the right one here, and so let's go ahead and get that off to the side. And I usually wear mine pretty close down to my elbow. And the reason for that is if I wear it up higher when I get in the car, or I get, I'm going through a doorway, or I'm getting dressed, or I'm toweling off after a shower, I have a tendency to pull it off. So I put it lower down because when it's lower down, I don't hit my elbow often. Okay, so that works there. So let's go ahead and one of the things that sometimes will happen is some people will put this on and they will kind of reach around to try to get it on, and that actually, when you do that, you're unless you're very good, you end up putting it in at an angle, and sometimes it will hurt, and that sometimes will mean that the cannula that's in there is bent. So I tell people, just make a 90-degree angle with your arm and your elbow, and find a spot right there, and then put it on. Okay, so that's the simplest way to do it. The easiest way to make sure that you're not putting it in incorrectly. Now, if you're putting it up higher, that may be a little difficult, and you may have to have someone help you with that. But if anywhere from your elbow up to, pretty far up, right? You have some good space there to do. And so what I want to do is I want to try not to put it in the same spot. Okay, that's why you see me feeling around down there. All right, so got this. Let's go ahead and right there. So that's not the same spot. And for this one, there's a button. Let's see. Let's show you a button. There's a button right there that you press when it deploys. So 90-degree angle, and I'm holding it firmly, but I'm not pressing, because when you press the button, it will deploy it. And you may have heard that click. Okay. And then now let's go back here. And it says start sensor, so I'm going to hit the start sensor, and it says scan. So I'm going to go to, let's see, cancel that. I was going to say use camera, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the camera to scan this. And there it is, so it should grab it. Right, so it grabbed it, identified it. And then it's back here. It says new sensors inserted. Yes, it is. It's pairing, trying to find it. And it says pair. So I'm going to pair it. And say OK. And now it says in 26 minutes, then we'll get the first reading for that. And so that's how you go about changing a sensor. Pretty similar to what you would do with the other brand as well, except they don't have a QR code to scan. You actually have to take take your phone, hold it up to it, and it reads it, and then the process begins. Okay. So anyway, so that's warming up 26 minutes, and then we'll see what the first number is. In the meantime, let's go ahead and let's take a look at my Freestyle Libre, and right here you'll see that it says that my blood sugar right at this moment is, let's go right over here, is 68. And if you look down below, that's my graph. You'll see my blood sugar. The white part is above 70, and the red part is below 70. And so for most of today, it's been above 70. And we can actually put my finger, and I always figured I can do that now. This is a new app, and you can actually see it as it scrolls across 70, 79, 80. So just straddling mid 70s. Look at that. It got up to 79 there, 81. And then coming back down to where we are right now in the upper 60s. Okay, so once again, blood sugar right now, and then over the course of the last 12 hours or so. If I look at the reports, my 7-day time in range is 88%, and then 12% down below there, you'll see that as 12%, and the combination of that is 100%, and that 12% low happens when I'm fasting. Like right now, I'm below 70, and so that's being recorded as a low. And you know, we'll talk more, or we talk more about that when we're fasting and what that means in terms of blood sugars. If I go to the 90-day average or time in range, you see there I'm in range 85% of the time, and 15% of those are lows. So if you add those together, that's 100%. And those lows that you see there are typically most often when I'm fasting. So if I'm not fasting, my blood sugar does not go low. If we look at average blood sugar right up in this line, you'll see what my average is for the last 7 days. Here's what it is for the last 14 days, the last 30 days, and then the last 90 days. And then down below here, I love these graphs because this breaks my blood sugar down based on the time of the day, right? So I can see what that's been running over the course of the day. And I love that because it allows me to pinpoint different times of the day where I need to maybe make an adjustment, make a shift, so that I can get better numbers. Excuse me. And now let's get out of this. Now, normally we would go to the Dexcom, but because that's still warming up, we don't have that data. But let's see where we are. So 23 minutes, okay, 23 minutes, and we'll get that. So let's go over and let's take a look at what's happening with my monitors. And so here is my Keto Mojo, and then here is my Contour. And let's grab our container. So I need a brown and blue. So brown is for blood sugar, blue for ketones, and then I need a lancet, and then I need a strip for the Contour. So let's get that out and get that into that device. And what do you think my ketones are, by the way? So 72 hours of fasting is where we are. And let's go ahead. I'm going to open both of these. This is so brown is for blood sugar. And get that one into the Keto Mojo. And then open up the blue, and this is the one for your ketones. Now, this one I'll just keep off to the side. And I open this because if not, then sometimes that drop gets dried, and then I have to do another finger stick. Okay, so here we are. So here is my Lancet. And as you see, I don't use a Lansing device. I just basically open it up. I get a finger, and I've been picking on this finger, but it's been working. So and there it is. So pretty not brisk, but pretty good drop. And let's go ahead and get this started in the Contour. Okay, and then let's go back over here so we can see what's been going on. Okay, so 69 for the Keto Mojo, 112 for the Contour, and 69 for the Libre. Look at that. So the Libre and the Keto Mojo match each other. And then, of course, when the Dexcom comes up, we'll get to see what that is. Let's go ahead and get this strip out and get the ketone strip in. And let's make sure that we still have a good drop of blood. And let's get that started. So go ahead and drop in the comments. What do you think? What do you think my ketones are going to be? So we'll get that one going. Let's get a tissue over here. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And 1.1 is what it says. So I'm going to get this off the screen. Bring this one a little closer, and then let's go over and we're going to get. Well, let me find the right app first. So we're looking for my Keto Mojo. There it is, Keto Mojo. And while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and get the calculator up because we're going to do a calculation here in just a minute. All right, so here we are. So Keto Mojo. And so what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit the sync button, which is right there. And let's see if we can get that to sync up for us. All right, there we are. So that was quick. All right, and so right there we see a 3.4, and 69 is what the blood sugar is, and of course ketones 1.1. And so these three numbers are what we're going to take a look at. But before that, remember, as we're looking at ketones that are less than 0.5 considered normal, 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis, and then above that, 1.5 above 1.5 considered therapeutic ketosis. So when we're talking about fasting mimicking diets, doing a ketogenic diet, or fasting so that we get into ketosis, we're looking to have numbers that are 0.5 or higher. And so right now, we're 1.1, so we're in the nutritional ketosis range. This number that you see in the middle is called the GKI, or glucose ketone index, and it is a calculated number, which is why I have my calculator up. So let's go ahead and do that. So I got to remember these numbers, 69 and 1.1. So go over to my calculator, so 69, and I need to convert this first to international units. So I divide that by 18, and then if I now divide that by 1.1, then I'll get that 3.48, which is this number that we see right here in the middle. Okay, so it's just a ratio of the glucose to ketones based on international numbers. So when you hear people out of the country talk about their blood sugars, they'll say things like 5, my blood sugar was 5, or my blood sugar was 6, or my blood sugar was 4. And that is the units that they use. It doesn't mean that their blood sugar is 4 according to our numbers. But looking at the numbers here, we want that GKI to be low, we want the ketones to be high, and we want the glucose to be low normal, okay, low or normal. And in my case, it's actually low. My ketones are high, so above 0.5, and then my GKI is low, 3.4. Now, I've had a GKI before that was like 0.7, and at that time, my blood sugar may have been 59 or 49 with ketones of 2.1 or something like that. And so now if you divide that or get that ratio, and don't quote the numbers, but the idea is that the ketones were high, the glucose was lower, and so my GKI was much lower than that. Okay? All right. And then looking at the graph, this is the graph of where we are, and let's go ahead and pull this over. So a couple of points that I want to make here, and so you'll see the tan line that you see there, those are blood sugars. And then the turquoise line, those are my ketones. So as my blood sugar was high up there, you see the ketones were low because ketones and insulin can't stay in the same space for long. And so if the blood sugar is high, then of course the ketones will be low. Okay? So blood sugar is high, insulin is high, ketones are low as a result of that. And then as the blood sugar comes down, our ketones go up, and you see there the blood sugar came down to let's see, where were we? Blood sugar came down to 71, and the ketones at that time went up to 0.6. Blood sugar kind of stayed pretty close, and the ketones went up to 0.8. And then, of course, blood sugar is right now at 69, and ketones are up at 1.1. Okay? And that's really what we want. We want to see those ketones above zero point 0.5 or 0.5 or above. Anything above that is good, right? Some caveats there, but generally speaking, and that's what we want to happen. And then now let's go ahead and let's take a look at what's been going on with my monitors. You'll see here is my Dexcom Clarity, and let's go over and take a closer look at that. And you see my average blood sugar for the last 14 days is 120. We usually tell people we want their blood sugar to be between 100 and 120. I'm in range 99% of the time, range being anywhere from 70 to 180, and my GMI, and this is my glucose management indicator, which is a surrogate for my A1C. So I should expect my A1C to be close to this. It may not be exactly, but it should be close to this, 6.2. If I look at my 90-day average over the course of the last 3 months, and my average blood sugar is 116, time in range is 98, range being still 70 to 180, and my glucose management indicator is a 6.1, okay? And then now, let's take a look at what's actually been going on with my blood sugars. And so what I want to do is I want to go backwards, and we're going to start on fasting day. And so we started our fast right in here. 110 was what my blood sugar is. Once again, if you've not seen the show where we actually showed what we ate and we ate along with you, go ahead and watch that. So and then you'll have a correlation with what the blood sugars are. And so 110. And so as we scrolled through the hours following that, we don't want any big spikes. Okay, so 110, so we went up, and the highest I saw there was 117 so far. So now we're, let's see, 9 o'clock. So now we're, 7 hours from fast since we started the fast. We're down in the 80s, dipped down into the 90s. And notice that the blood sugar is kind of straddling the 100 line, okay? So low hundreds, 80s, 90s. So this now is essentially, how many hours is that? 9-10 hours after fasting, after starting the fast. And then into the next morning, we're in the 90s, down in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 100s, right? Upper, so spiked up there for about 129, and that's right about my toothpaste effect. And then 109, 103, as we continue going back down into the 90s, 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 up into the 100s just slightly there, and then continuing to stay and straddling that 80, 90, low 100 range as that continues to go. And so here, let's back up for a minute. So right here, this is 24 hours. This will be 24 hours. So we started at 110, now we're 101 at 24 hours, and then continuing to go down, 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 down. Here we are at 33 hours, and that's when we did our show and did our check-in, down into the 80s, and then coming into yesterday, into the 80s, 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 and then right around here, toothpaste effect again, up into the 110s, maybe low 100s. Continue to go down, 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 down. And here we are. This is at 48 hours. So we started at 110. 24 hours later, we were 101. 48 hours later, we were 98. And that continues going down, 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 down. And now we're getting much closer to that 70 mark. Okay, and one of the questions that you should be asking, and then coming into the morning, now into the low 80s, 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 and yeah, so that's where my sensor went out, and didn't actually realize it until I was just getting ready to go on. Okay, so we'll see what that is here in just a minute as that warms up. And so one of the questions that I get asked often is, if I'm fasting, why doesn't the blood sugar why is the blood sugar still high? Well, the blood sugar is still up because your body still has the ability to convert fat to sugar. But before we get there, your body still has sugar in there. right? So you're still having glycogen in your liver, and so it's taking that out and it's just using it. So that should not be a surprise. That should not be something that is abnormal to you in your thought process. Your body functions on sugar. So if your blood sugar ever went to 0, that's not good. All right? So people say, well, if I don't eat, shouldn't it go down? Well, how low do we want it to go? We don't want it to go. We don't really want it to go that low because the body still needs sugar. And so as we are going through the non-fasting space, if you're not in ketosis, then your blood sugar has to stay at a level where your body is able to use the calories for energy. If you're fasting, it's then that the body switches. Or if you're not eating, right? If you eat a ketogenic diet and so forth, it's then that the body switches over and can use ketones. If you're not there, the blood sugar has to be at a level where your body gets enough energy to function. If not, that does not work well. Okay? All right, so just wanted to make that point there as we, because that's a question I get asked often. And so now let's go ahead and let's take a look and let's say hello to some of our community members. And I see some of you out there. Hello, everyone. And Pamela is saying good afternoon. Hey, Pam, how are you? Thank you for coming through and hanging out with us. And Pam says hello. Cornelia says hello. Hey, Cornelia, what's up? Good to see you. And we've been thinking about you and keeping you and family in our thoughts. 1.3 is what she's guessing. And Pamela says, hey, Cornelia, asking about your dad. Once again, we are keeping overall stable. Well, thank you for updating us, okay? Trying to keep him calm. Thanks for asking and continuing to pray. Sorry to hear that from Pam, but probably underestimate. Don't give up. Yes, thank you. So just talking about family and glad that you are here with us. And Cornelia says, we know it's hard. Yep. Family, when we are going through things, always a challenge. As we are, it's one of the major things that happens in our lives when family become ill. So thank you for coming through, and thank you for sharing that in our community and sharing that with everyone as we continue to keep you in our thoughts and in our prayers. All right, so let's go ahead, and so we've got 8 minutes before we see what's going on with the monitor right there. All right, so 8 minutes. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and we'll get into our conversation for today as we talk about fasting and the things that happen in our bodies. And what do we need to know? What do we need to know to be successful in our fast? And that is what we're talking about. All right, so the first question, and we're going to do that a little differently today. The first question is, why fast? And a corollary question to that, is fasting the only way of improving our metabolism? And the answer to the second question is no. So fasting is not the only way to improve our metabolism. In fact, we've laid out a structure, our health action plan, and everything in the plan has a component of directing the reversal of our dysfunctional metabolism. Right? So if you walk through that plan, the way and the reason for each of the pillars that's in the health action plan is that it is designed to, in some way, help facilitate improving metabolism. So fasting is not the only way to do that. Now, fasting is a part of the health action plan, right? Because we want to put all those things together that does the job that we want. So that's the second question. Why fasting, then, is the bigger question. And the answer is that fasting has the ability to pull together and to address several of the dysfunctional things that are happening along the course of the metabolism gone awry. So metabolism, remember, is the process of taking food and converting it into energy that the body needs. That's the idea of metabolism. So the foods that you eat, the nutrients you're taking, the water, the vitamins, all of those things come together in the body, and it produces energy in the mitochondria. ATP is what the body uses. And so that is what's called metabolism. And fasting is a way of hitting several places along the track that lead to dysfunction, and ultimately that leads to disease processes. Okay? So that's the idea. Fasting is simple. I'm going to pause right there because you're like, no, it's not. Fasting is simple. It's financially accessible. It could be done at any time. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to go anywhere. You could be at your house and do that without any huff or fuss. So because it's accessible, because it's inexpensive, because you don't need anything else, fasting is an amazing one. Also, because fasting, in addition to the physical things that are going on in terms of metabolism, fasting also has emotional, psychological, relational effects. And so it encompasses so much that it is I'm not going to say a perfect tool, but it is an ideal tool to do what we want to do, and that's reversing or improving our metabolism. Okay? Now, going further, along the spectrum of the metabolic diseases, the ultimate or prototypic one being diabetes, there are several things along the track that lead to diabetes, that are involved with diabetes, that can be reversed and improved by fasting as well. So that if we are doing things that improve metabolism in general, then those disease processes can improve also. And so that's the reason for fasting, because it has this profound ability to address so many of the things that we see that are dysfunctional in our metabolism. Fasting reduces insulin. We know metabolic diseases, the underpinnings of fasting, of metabolic diseases, is an insulin issue. Hyperinsulinemia, dysfunctional insulin. And so when we fast, by virtue of the way fasting works, our insulin levels begin going down, because they have to go down. And if we're decreasing insulin, then the dysfunction that comes from elevated insulin, by virtue of that, also has to improve. Does that make sense? Fasting, by decreasing insulin, it helps to suppress the appetite stimulating ability of insulin, because the insulin's gone down, and insulin is an appetite stimulant. So what we should expect is that our appetite, our cravings should improve. In fact, in my office, when I talk to patients, when I talk to clients, one of the first things I tell them is we want to make sure that we are minimizing the amount of insulin in your body. Once again, we're talking to type 2 diabetics, people who are pre-diabetic, people who have metabolic syndrome, people who have metabolic diseases. This is not a type 1 discussion per se, because their disease process is on a different pathway. Still dysfunction in insulin, but for a different reason. All right? So decreasing the amount of insulin in our body. When we do that, then that has the ability to suppress our appetite, and so cravings kind of go down. When we're fasting, because we're not putting any food in, we're reducing the sugar. Because we're not having those cravings, because our appetite is down, then that should expect, or we should expect, that that leads to weight decrease. Because now the body has to go and use stored energy, which is called, those in the fat cells. It has to use stored energy now for functioning. And if I'm using up stored energy, the stored energy goes down. And because stored energy is another word for fat, then those fat cells should begin getting smaller. Right? And that simply is the physiologic metabolic component. Because our insulin levels go down, then the insulin level, well, high insulin can dysregulate our hunger and satiety hormones. So when it's going down, those now begin to be regulated. So the food noise begins to go away. The buffering with food begins to improve because there's not that push anymore. So those are the reasons for fasting. And as part of our health action plan, fasting sits as one of those pillars. And because we're using it as a tool, whenever you use a tool, you want to know how the tool works. Yes? So how does it work? What are the best practices for the tool? How do I take care of the tool? What are the benefits I should get from the tool? And so here we are talking about fasting, a tool that we're using to improve our metabolism. That's why we do a show about fasting, because we are figuring out what's the best way to use the tool. We're walking through the tool, how to get the tool into our lives, and what should we be expecting as we're looking at this in terms of our metabolism. Okay? Now that sets the stage for why we're doing what we're doing. So let's go ahead and let's hop into the discussion. And so really it is fasting, a fasting review. What do you need to know? What do we need to know? And whenever I talk about fasting, I discuss fasting in three different ways. I talk about fasting as it relates to three different components. How do we get through the fast, or how do we prepare for the fast? How do we get through the fast? And then how do we break the fast? Okay, 1, 2, 3. That's our plan. And that's where we're heading. That's where we're heading right now. So how do we prepare for the fast? Let's walk through that and how to get ready. And when we prepare for the fast, it is important to understand that it is ultimately the success of the fast, or the success of the fast depends on how you prepare. All right, so getting through that fast. Getting through it is important, but how you prepare for it sets the pace or sets the tone for what happens in the fast. So we want to prepare for the fast in several ways. And for this, I want to do something here really quickly. I want to talk about the domains of health. The domains of health. And the domains of health are really the preparation for fasting. Now, we've talked about each domain as different components, different parts, as though they're all separate things, but they are intertwined. And so when we're preparing for the fast, remember the fasting is not just not eating. We have lots of other components to that. So preparing for the fast involves preparing mentally, physically, emotionally. All of those things are there. Now, when I talk about it, I stress the physical, mental, and emotional, but really every aspect of our domains come into play as we are getting ready for the fast. Because if our domains are not functioning well, if we're not doing well socially or physically or emotionally, all of those will push buttons during the fast and make it difficult, make it more challenging for us to maintain the fast. And we're just hanging on for dear life until the fast is over, and then we just go back to the things that we were doing before because the domains have not been addressed. Make sense? Awesome. All right, so preparing, very important. We want to prepare physically, mentally, and emotionally. And in there is the concept of the entire list of domains. And then when we prepare for the fast, it allows us to determine milestones. Oh, the milestones are very important. Because if you're waiting to the end of the fast to see the benefit, that can be challenging. I want to see along the way what's going on. That's why I check my blood sugars. That's why I check my ketones. That's why I check my weight as I go through the fast. Because I want to know what's happening in my body, and am I seeing the things I should see as it relates to fasting. If I'm using a tool, if I am, using a hammer or a chisel or a screwdriver, I want to see that screw going in as I'm turning. If it's not going in, something's wrong. As a matter of fact, if it's not going in, I check it to see, wait, am I doing something wrong? Is whatever it is. If you're hitting the nail with the hammer and the nail's not going in, you stop and you're like, well, what's going on? So what are the milestones in fasting? As I'm going through the fasting, what should I be seeing? What should I expect? And that happens as you're preparing, because that allows you to set the pain and to know where you are along the way. And then when we talk about fasting, we also want to know that we are preparing mentally, right? So one of the domains, let's walk through them. Why mentally? Oh, this is an important one. Mental, and I start with mental because it is the ability to set clear goals. So understand why you're fasting. That ultimately leads to a successful fast. If I don't understand why I'm fasting, then I may not have a clear idea of what should be happening. I may resent it. I may be going to it begrudgingly. Anything happens in the fast and I throw my hands up because I don't understand what is the purpose of this. In fact, because many of us use food as a buffer, that thing that separates us from the emotions, that thing that helps us to remain busy, right? When we're bored, when we're tired, it keeps us up. Because of that, if we don't have a clear understanding of what we're doing, then those things become more pronounced and they will pull us away from the fast, because that is our crutch. The food is our crutch. And if you're taking away my food and now I've got to feel stuff I didn't want to feel. I've got to find a different way to keep me busy because I'm bored. I've got to find something else to keep me up. Then I don't want to do this. Right? So mentally, we've got to prepare. Other thing is visualize. Right? Imagine the benefits of successful fasting. Going back to why. What's going to be the benefit? Am I going to see a weight change? Am I going to see my A1C go down? My blood sugars get better? Am I going to see my cholesterol, my high blood pressure? Am I going to get off of medication? What is it that I'm looking for? Begin imagining what the benefits are of the fast. And then educate yourself. There are so many different types of fasting that we've gone through. We do a 72-hour fast and recommend that everyone should be able to do at least a 24-hour fast, and that's a start. If you have additional metabolic issues that you need to deal with, then you may need to fast longer. One of the reasons for the way I fast and the fasting schedule that I have is because I have some dysfunctional metabolism from my past, from things I've done, choices I've made, that I was trying to improve. And going to my doctors recently had good results. So what is the reason that you're fasting? Which fasting are you going to do? And educate yourself on that fast, right? Because there are, we do intermittent fasting. So 16 and 8 or 12 and 12 or 20 and 4. There's alternate day fasting. There's one meal a day. There's time restricted fasting. Of course, there's extended fasting as we're doing. Now, all of the fasting that you do will give benefit. Let me put a pin there and just say that. So it doesn't really matter which fast you do, you're going to get some benefit. Now, if you're trying to accelerate that and try to get bigger benefits shorter time, then that may be a different type of fast. But all the fasting that you do will give you some benefit. In fact, we did a show where we talked about the different types of fasts and also what each fast has been shown to improve. So educate yourself on the type of fast and fasting in general. And then, if you are going to get through the fast successfully, get help from your inner coach. Right? Once again, to the mindset. The inner coach is that part of us that is the one that pumps us up, that pushes us, that rah-rahs us. Not the inner critic. The inner critic is going to remind you of the stuff you didn't do. The times you didn't do it, the times you weren't able to do it, the time you didn't finish it, the time you started and gave up. But the inner coach is going to help us. So we want to elicit the inner coach. And that happens as we are strengthening the inner coach. And one of the ways of doing that is with affirmations. I am fasting to improve my health. I am going to get to 72 hours. I am someone who is interested in their health. Whatever the affirmation is. Because when you do that, you're giving the inner coach power and you're giving the inner coach the ability to move beyond where your mind may be at the time. Okay? And then nutritional preparation. This goes back to the physical. So as you're going through the fast or getting to the fast, you want to begin reducing carbs and sugars. This is immensely important. Your body, when you're in the fast, has to get rid of all the sugar that's in your blood. It has to go to the liver and use up the glycogen that's in the liver before it gets to fat cells. So if I come into the fast and I've got a lot of carbs on board, a lot of sugar on board, my blood sugar is going to be high, which means my insulin is going to be high. And we've already said that insulin is a problem. And so now my body has to spend the time that it should have been going into ketosis to deal with the carbs that came into the fast. So this is not a fasting issue. This is a pre-fasting issue. So it's got to use up all those carbs that's in the blood. The blood sugar has to go down, and then it uses up what's in my liver, right? That's the stored carbohydrate that's in the body, and then it goes to the fat. So people say to me, "Well, my blood sugar is still high. I've been fasting for X number." It's like, yeah, we can't because we came into the fast with a lot of sugar. And then also we want to increase healthy fats and we want to increase our protein. The reason for that is that our fat, when we eat fat, it helps our body produce something called CCK, cholecystokinin. That helps to slow the GI tract, keeps you fuller longer. When we eat protein, it produces something called protein YY, right? That helps also to slow the GI tract. And these have the ability, or that has the result of telling our brain that we are full and we don't need to eat more. So when you come into the fast, if you come into the fast with protein and fat in your stomach, then your body doesn't want to get any more stuff as you go through the fast. But if you come in and you're low on protein, low on fat, high in carbs, then you're going to be craving stuff. And those first several hours of fasting, that's going to be tough. You want to also determine, this is pre-fast, determine a specific meal that you will eat before the fast. Don't let that be random. Don't let that be, well, let me back up. Because I do random because of the way my food comes on my pre-fast day. But I have a standard fasting meal or pre-fast meal that I create. It's already in my head. So wherever I am, I just get the components of that and that's what I eat. Right? So come up with what is going to be your default meal so that you can create that wherever you are. You go to a restaurant, you go to somebody's house, you're at the grocery store, you're at a fast food restaurant, wherever it is, you begin to create that because you can take components of what is around you and create that meal. Don't let that be a random, okay, I'm going to eat whatever is there kind of meal. So determine a specific meal before you get into the fast. And then gradually reduce your eating window. This is an important one, particularly for people who are now getting into fasting. If you've never fasted before and you see me and you're saying, hey, he fasts for 72 hours, I'm going to do that, that's not the way to get into it. Right? You want to get into it slowly, gradually, and you want to be able to do it in a way that is sustainable. Because if all of a sudden you go from never fasting to 72 hours, you will have, you may get through it. But the next time you try to do that, your brain was like, no, we're not doing that again. Right? Because there are hormonal, physiologic, psychological changes that are happening as you are going through the fast. And if you've not done it before, then it becomes difficult. So what does it mean to gradually reduce your eating window? That means that right now, most people, and I'm assuming that you eat breakfast and all those types of things, right? Most people sleep for 7 to 8 hours, roughly. And so for 7 and 8 hours, they're not eating. And so then they get up, and then for the rest of the time, while they're up, they're eating, snacking, right, or so forth. And so what you want to do, so if, and let's make it simple. Let's make the math simple, right? Let's say they don't eat for 10 hours. So they go to sleep at, 6 o'clock at night, and they wake up at 4 o'clock. Right? So 6 to 4, that's 10 hours. And so they start eating at that time, right? So that would give them the rest of the, 14 hours. So what you can do is, instead of starting to eat right there when you wake up, which gives you 14 hours, just extend it 2 more hours. Now you've gone 12 hours without eating, right? So what we've done is we've shortened the eating window. So we went from eating over 14 hours, now we eat 12 hours. And then once you get good at that, now instead of eating when you at starting 6 o'clock, now you extend it another 2 hours. Now you start eating at 8 o'clock in the morning. What you've done is you've shrunken the eating window once again, and you went from 14, you went down to 12, now you went down to 10 hours. And when you can do that, then you do another 2 hours. Now instead of eating at 10, you eat at, well, I said 8, so now instead of eating at 8, you eat at 10. Right? Now we've gone from 12 hours down to 10 hours. And we continue doing that until we're able to shrink the time we're eating to smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller times, where we're fasting for the length of time that we want. And we're shooting for a minimum of 24 hours. Now, I said, and you heard me say increase by 2 hours. You could increase by 1 hour if that's the pace that you need to go. Or you could do bigger chunks. Oh man, I'm good at 10 hours. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to fast for 14 hours. So you went from 10 to 14. You don't have to go 10, 11, 12, whatever it takes, or whatever you are able to do, that's where you go. So gradually reduce the eating window, and that gets you into the fast. Okay? And then hydration and electrolytes. Often the things that we feel in the fast that people say, well, I feel a certain way, has nothing to do with the fast itself, but has to do with how we are hydrated and how our electrolytes are. So coming into the fast, leading up to the fast, we want to drink plenty of water. Because in the fast, sometimes we don't think about drinking. So if we're already depleted, when we come into the fast, that has a more pronounced effect. You want to make sure that you're taking in adequate electrolytes. So for some people, you may need to supplement with electrolytes. You know, they have the electrolyte supplements that you pour into the water and drink, right? You do want to make sure, though, that you're avoiding things that have calories and carbs. So you don't want the highly sugary one. You dump it in. That's not the one you want. You can drink herbal teas, green tea, chamomile tea, peppermint, because you get the hydration, and it also begins relaxing you as you're getting into the fasting. So hydration, electrolytes. And then physical preparation. If you are exercising, and let's say this, if you're exercising right now, when you get into the fast, you want to continue exercising, but you want to make sure that you're not doing extraneous or lots of stuff or strenuous workouts. Unless, I'm going to say a phrase here, unless you're doing a fasting workout. Fasting workout, people who work out, they're lifting heavy weights and so forth, they will actually deliberately fast, because when they fast, the growth hormone in their body goes up. And growth hormone is well known to maintain muscle mass, help you have faster recovery, and to keep bulk. So if that is the case, then yes, you're fasting and you're continuing to do that. But if you are not exercising, don't start fasting and then say, okay, I'm fasting now, so that's great. So let me add, I'm going to go start lifting like heavy weights. This is not the time to do that. Okay, that can be done as you are getting healthier and as you are building up to that. But don't start those together. In fact, when we talk about weight management with our patients, I don't tell them to go exercise as a function of losing weight. In fact, if they start exercising at the time they're trying to lose weight, when we first start, their weight's going to go up. So things like, in fasting, so back to fasting, things like walking, swimming, yoga, your stretching, all of those are good. You want to reduce the strenuous exercise 1 to 2 days before you start the fasting. You want to get rest. You want to aim for at least 7 hours of quality sleep before you fast. Quality sleep. Because it's during sleep that the body restores, regulates, and all those things that are happening. And then begin reducing your caffeine or energy drinks, because if you don't, then what's going to happen is you're going to be stimulated, you're going to be up, and you're fasting, and that causes all kinds of other issues. And then your environment. You want to clean out your environment. You want to clean out the temptations. You'll see there it says remove unhealthy snacks, and unhealthy is underlined. Because what I want you to get is you remove snacks. There is no physiologic reason, there's no body reason for snacking. Your body doesn't want you to snack. It doesn't need you to snack. We snack because it keeps us busy. We snack because it helps keep us awake. We snack because it's routine. All the things that we talk about with the heat model. Okay, you want to create a fasting-friendly zone. Keep your kitchen stocked with teas and water and things that will support the fasting. Some electrolytes. And you want to prepare some distractions. One of the reasons that I tell people they should start the fast in the evening is because if they start in the evening, they go to sleep, by the time they wake up, they've already gone through 7 to 8 hours. But if you start the fast in the morning, when you first wake up, your brain, particularly if this is new to you, your brain will say, oh my goodness, I'm going to fast for what? I got another 24 hours to go. I got another 16 hours to go. But if you fast, say you go to bed and you start your fast right before you go to bed, by the time you wake up, 7 hours gone. You've just got the rest of the time to go, right? And then, once again, prepare distractions. Get some stuff to do while you're fasting. Walking, meditation, play a game, learn a new sport, reading, to keep the mind distracted, because fasting is as much a mental thing as it is physical. Right? So and then emotional and social. Fasting is not just not eating. Fasting takes in so much in our lives. Let your support system know that you are fasting and what your plan is. That means that you should have a support group, a support system, support people around you that will help to push you, help to support you. Because if not, then everybody's going to be trying to get you to eat, right? You've gone somewhere, they're like, hey, try this. You're like, no, I'm good. No, you should try this. Come on, let's do it, right? So you want people around you that know, and they're not doing it deliberately. They just don't know you're fasting. And they're being social. How do we socialize? We socialize with food. We share stuff. Hey, taste this thing. This is great. You got to get this thing. They're doing what we normally do. But if you have not informed people around you, then they're going to keep doing what they do. So my team at work knows I fast. My family knows I fast. And so they don't usually tell me with stuff. Identify your triggers. Be aware of anything that triggers you that may lead you to break your fast. This goes back to our HEAT model: habits, emotions, access, and taste. These are the things that cause us to go off track. The habits that we have. The times when we eat just because we eat. The emotions that have gotten so high that they push through our decision to not eat. Access, the stuff that's around us if we've not cleaned out our surroundings. And then to taste, the memories that we have of the things that cause us, I remember that time when we ate that thing, when we were that person and we felt that way. Yeah. And then, of course, join a group to support you in the fast. That is super, super, super important. Okay? So preparation for the fast is ultimately important. And so here's some takeaways. Preparation is key. You want to prepare mentally, emotionally, physically, all the domains of health. The reason I have mentally here is because it is perhaps the most important, because the vision that you have for the fast, the way you see the fast, the lenses through which you see life and the fasting is going to set a tone for everything else. You want to get rest. Coming into the fast without rest is difficult, and you feel more profoundly the things that happen in the fast. Eat nutrient-dense foods, not calorie-dense, nutrient-dense, and get into community. Okay? All right. And so when we talk about fasting, we talk about preparing for the fast, of course, successfully getting through the fast, and then breaking the fast. So getting through the fast, we're going to talk about the first 24 to 36 hours, maybe 30 hours. And the first thing to understand is that the first 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours, is not called fasting. It's a postprandial period. Your body's still processing the food that you ate. The blood sugars are still high. It's still sorting the food that you brought in. And so if we come into the fast with a lot of stuff, sugar, carbs, that the body has to process, then it takes a long time for us to get into the phase that we're looking for to get the benefit. So if your blood sugars are really high, your body has to deal with all that blood sugar. Then it has to deal with the carbs that are in the liver before it gets to fat cells. And so people will say to me, oh, well, I've been fasting for 6 hours, I've been fasting for 8 hours, and my weight is not changing. Well, because we've not gotten into the space where we get the full benefit. Now, you're going to get some benefit because when you don't eat that much or over that period of time, your insulin levels are going to begin dropping, maybe not a lot. Your appetite is going to go down, but it's still going to be pronounced because the sugar is high, insulin is high. So this is called the postprandial phase. Energy is up, insulin is high, ketones are low, because the body is just sorting and processing all the things that you just ate. And then the early fasting stage is the next 6 to 12 hours. This is the early fasting state where insulin levels are starting to go down. Glycogen levels are starting to increase, because remember, glycogen and insulin go in opposite directions. Insulin is the, hey, I'm eating hormone, and glycogen is a, hey, I'm not eating right now hormone. So they go in opposite directions. As the sugar is going down, insulin starts to go down. Glycogenolysis is happening. So the body is taking the food that you ate, it's stored it away, and now it's going back to it and saying, hey, now I need that to do some energy. It's kind of like going to the grocery store. You come home and you start putting the things away into the cabinets and into the refrigerator, into the pantry, into wherever they need to go. And then you're ready to cook. Well, what do you have to do now? You've got to go back to the refrigerator, go back to the pantry, go back to the cabinet, and take stuff out. And that's what the body's doing in this phase. Is grabbing the stuff that it's actually just taken out. And then our next phase is our transition to using fat. So we're now starting to have fluctuations in that blood sugar because it's going down, the insulin's going down, and the body's now starting to say, hey, I need to find some more sources of energy. The glucose levels continue to drop. The body's saying, hey, let me go. It goes to the liver. The liver starts to say, hey, I need to make more sugar. And it starts creating sugar from non-carbohydrate sources because the glycogen that's in the liver is starting to become depleted. And this is the place where people may feel fluctuations. They may feel like their blood sugars or their energy is dipping. And particularly if you're not rested, you'll feel this part more profoundly. Okay, so that's the 12 to 18 hour mark. And then our 18 to 24 hours, ketosis is beginning. Because the sugar in the blood is down, the glycogen from the liver is down, my insulin levels have gone down, and my body says, okay, now I need to go access in earnest the fat cells to begin using them for energy. And once it starts doing that, then ketones begin. Now, for a lot of people, for some people, this starts a little earlier, depending on the food that you ate, by the way. Come on, right? Depending on the food that you ate, depending on how long the body had to process, you can get into this either later or earlier. So you want to make sure that when you come into this, when you get here, that your body gets to the ketosis as quickly as possible. And then the next 24 to 30 hours is fat adaptation. So there's significant increase in ketones now because the body is now pulling that out of the fat cells. Fatty oxidation is increased. More fatty acids are around. You may see fluctuations in blood sugar, by the way, right? Because the body has the ability, when it breaks down the fat, it cleaves off the glycerol part, and that goes to create sugar. The other part goes to create the ketones. And so fatty acid oxidation or fat oxidation is happening. So that's getting through the fast, understanding what's going on there. Also, you want to make sure that you are hydrated, that you are rested, that you are not putting yourself under undue stress. All the things that we've talked about preparing for the fast, that goes for the fast itself. And so preparing for the fast, successfully getting through the fast, and then breaking the fast now. What do we do? What do we need to know when we break the fast? So breaking the fast, ultimately important because you can undo in breaking the fast the things that you did and the benefits you got in the fast. Let me pause for a minute because I want you to get this. Just like we can cause damage to the fast when we eat prior to the fast, when we break the fast, we can undo a lot of the things that we did in the fast. One of the main ideas here is the sugar. So if you all of a sudden say, man, for the last 12 hours, last 18 hours, last 24, 36 hours, I've not had any sugar. Oh, I'm going to just go, I was going to say hog wild. I'm going to eat some candies, cookies, cake, start drinking some sodas. Right. If you go through that process, then all of a sudden your blood sugar spikes up. And what has to happen when the blood sugar comes up? Your body has to produce insulin. And once we get a big spike in insulin, then it's off to the races. Your cravings go up, your weight goes up, your appetite goes up, and for the next 12, 36, 48 hours, the next 2 days, you're eating like you've not eaten, like you're starving. But it's because of the stimulation that comes from the food that we ate to break the fast. So breaking the fast ultimately is important as well, okay? So just a couple of pointers that I want you to get, some tips. One, you should monitor your blood sugar. You don't have to be diabetic. You don't have to be pre-diabetic. You should monitor your blood sugar. Because what you want to know is, how is your body responding to the things that are going on? How is it responding to the food that I ate? Now, just because somebody says that, hey, a particular food is healthy, doesn't mean that your body responds to that food like every other body. I want you to hear that. Just because it's healthy doesn't mean that it is the thing for you. Like, you could eat something that doesn't do anything to your blood sugar, doesn't cause any insulin spike, and I eat the same thing and my blood sugar goes crazy. This is one of the ideas of understanding how your body works. There are certain foods that have a pronounced effect on your body. Even though you're not allergic to it, you don't have an intolerance to it, nobody's ever told you that, but when you see that blood sugar, you're like, oh my goodness, look at that. This food, compared to the other stuff I eat, causes a big spike. And you don't know that if you're not monitoring. The other thing is portion control. Often it's not that we're eating the wrong thing, but we're eating too much of a thing that causes the problem. We've gotten used to certain portion sizes. In fact, when I was traveling, and let me tell on myself. When I was traveling, we were over in London, we were in Paris, and I went and I bought some stuff. We went to this fancy restaurant, and they gave me this little piece of thing. I was like, what is this? Because I was used to a portion, and that didn't look like a portion to me. So we want to make sure that we're eating the appropriate portion sizes. Just because it's on the plate and just because it comes in the box doesn't mean that all of that is a portion. In fact, look at the box, because they'll say, it's a whole nother conversation, right? All right. And then we want to eat slowly. It takes about 20 minutes for a signal to get from our stomach to our brain that we're full. And if you just start shoveling things down because you're coming out of the fast, before you know it, you've eaten 2 to 3 times more than you should before the brain gets the signal. The brain is the regulatory mechanism. You will do whatever your brain tells you. Even if your body, your stomach is stretched and full, right? Almost to pain. If you get tired enough, frustrated enough, mad enough, worried enough, you're going to eat, because the brain says that's going to calm us. And just a minute ago, you're like, I can't eat anything else. But the brain says, hey, let's go do it. And boom, there we are. And then we want to avoid highly sugary processed foods. And here's a good place for us to talk about balanced bites. Balanced bites is a way of thinking about food. Whole foods, minimize processed foods, no added sugar, lean protein, healthy snacks, or healthy fats, I said snacks, starchy and non-starchy vegetables, tasty and flavorful, and you want portion control, once again. So this is not a diet, this is not a meal plan, this is not a list of foods, this is a way of thinking about food. And here's the crux, here's the point. This is not just for fasting. This is how you should be thinking about your food in general. Anytime you sit to eat, this is what should be going through your mind. Am I eating the whole foods first? Am I eating minimally processed foods? No added sugar, lean protein and healthy fats, starchy, non-starchy vegetables, leaning more towards the non-starchy. Portion control, tasty and flavorful. Not just for prior to the fast and not just after the fast. This is how we should be eating. Okay? And so with that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at what's on my plate. So here's my meal that I'm going to use to break my fast. And let's walk through it quickly. And so here so in terms of whole foods, right? So whole foods, and right now The only thing that's not processed, that is processed, is the cheese that you see on here. I have not put the dressing on here yet. Okay, so whole foods. So most of this is whole foods. Minimize processing. Once again, the cheese would be processed. There are some nuts here, by the way. Some nuts that I put in. So those are not honey, but dry roasted. So those are processed. They went through a processing mechanism and so forth. So whole foods, minimize processing, no added sugar. So no sugar added in here. Protein, so lean protein. Right, so this is jerk chicken that I made. Right, so I know what's in there. So jerk chicken. So lean protein. The nuts also are protein. There's some garbanzo beans under here. There's some black beans under here. So those are protein. So lean protein. Healthy fats. So I've got some avocados right here. Right. Starchy and non-starchy vegetables. So in terms of vegetables that are on here, I've got some bell peppers, some orange, red bell peppers. I've got some red onions. Under here, this is a cabbage, string cabbage that we got. That's in a bag, right, from the grocery store. That was washed and so forth. And there's not a lot of starchy vegetables. Not any starchy vegetables that are here. Portion control, right? So this is a good portion right here. Tasty and flavorful. I haven't tasted it yet, but I'm assuming it's going to be tasty and flavorful because it's got some good stuff in there. Okay? So that is what we're eating to break our fast for today. And so once again, your eating should follow balanced bites. It's not just, hey, I'm going to do this when I'm starting my fast or when I'm breaking my fast, but this is how we eat all the time. And so some considerations for the fast is, once again, these are the tips that I want you to pay attention to as you are breaking the fast. Because if you don't do a good job here, that can undo a lot of the things that you did and the benefits that you had in the fast. And then some considerations that I want you to keep in mind. When you are breaking your fast, right, you want to make sure that you choose foods that help maintain stable blood sugars while providing nutritional value and that are gentle on the digestive system. You want to choose things that are low glycemic index, and that's typically less than 50, lean protein, healthy fats, and of course, you want to have good hydration. All of that so important. So if you want to fast successfully, learning how to use the tool is important because fasting is a tool. And so what you need to know, how to prepare for the fast successfully, how to get through the fast successfully and what's going on in your body, and then how to break the fast. And that is what we do. That is the fasting process. Because we want to know how to use this amazing tool so we can get the benefit that we need from the fasting. All right, and so that's our fasting, y'all. That's it. That's how we fast. That's how we fast successfully. Here we do everything based on the Triple E formula for success. We educate, we empower, we encourage. That is the way we work. When you are, let me say it a little differently. In order for you to be successful, there are some preconceived ideas. There are some things you've got to learn about your body, about health, about the things that you do and how it impacts how your body functions. That comes through the education. There are tools, fasting, the heat model, balanced bites, the move campaign that we're on. All of those are tools that are designed to allow you to plug in and begin moving in that direction, in that space to improve what you need so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So when you show up, plug into those places. And then we encourage. We encourage with the community that you're a part of, community that's growing, community that you get to build. So when you show up, tell your story. The successes that you've had and some of the challenges that you've had, because all of that enriches the community. So make sure that you're doing that. Okay? And when you are doing and seeing and getting benefits, make sure you share that with everybody else. Because Limitless Living says that we are improving not just ourselves, but we're also improving the community. Awesome. I'm always excited when I get to hang out with you. I'm always excited to see the benefits and the goals that you have and see you achieve those. I get immensely I have immense benefits that come from watching you and seeing you and hearing the stories of successes that you're having. People who are off of medication, people who have improved their A1C, people who have lost weight, people who have improved their blood pressure, off of so many of the things that we normally use to treat diseases. But ultimately, our goal is to how do we keep you alive as long as possible, and how do we keep you as healthy as possible so that you can wrestle with the grandkids, so that you can go on that trip that you guys have been dreaming about, so that you could spend time together in retirement after putting all those years in to build whatever it is you built, so you can walk your daughter down the aisle, see your son get married, see your grandchildren, show them how to fish and how to build and how to do all the things that you've done in your life, to pass that on to the next generation. That's the reason why we do what we do. It's not just about the number. It's about the things that we can do when we are healthy and when we're around. Hey, I'm glad that you're here. We will be back tomorrow for Video from the Vault, 9 p.m. Central, here on the channel. And then on Sunday morning, 6 a.m. Central, This Week in Review. And then on Monday, we'll be right back here as we continue our quest and our journey to improve our health on Dwain Woode, MD, live, y'all. Thank you for being with me. This is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. We educate, we empower, and we encourage you to take charge of your health and your life. Avoid complications, go to the next level. We're creating the life we've always wanted, and we are living limitless lives. We're going to watch this promo for the MOVE campaign, and then we'll be out. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. Welcome to MOVE, Metabolic Optimization via Exercise. This isn't just about workouts. It's about moving your body, moving your habits, and moving your life forward. Each episode builds consistency, strength, and resilience step by step. I'm Dr. Dwain Woode, and together we're writing the story of health, transformation, and limitless living. This is MOVE. Let's get started.